What's up everyone? I'm back with another video, and today I really want to talk about all of the exposure, all of the exposing that's been going on in the church world. We heard about what happened with Dr. Tony Evans, with Robert Morris, and earlier this year TD Jakes. So there's been a real shaking in the church world, and I'm here for it. I am absolutely and 110% here for every part of it, not because I love mess, not because I love transgression, not because I love sin, not because I like drama, but because my Bible tells me that all things that are done in the dark shall be brought to light. My Bible tells me that things that are hidden will be exposed and brought to the forefront before all. My Bible says that in Luke 8:17 and in Luke 12:2-3. So my Bible tells me that when there are intentional efforts to conceal something, to put something on the back burner, to put something underground for people not to find out, for people not to see, when there are intentional efforts to cover up the truth, that thing is going to be revealed to everyone. So when I see this happening in the church world and happening so frequently, I know that this is the Lord's doing. I know that this is something that God is doing because his word says so. And it is for that reason that I am rejoicing. It is for that reason that I am absolutely and 110% for it, because I know that it's something that God is doing because his word confirms it. I'm also a lover of truth, okay? I don't like lies. I don't like deceit. I don't like manipulation. I hate those things, and God hates it too. A lying tongue is one of the seven abominations, that God detests, that he hates. I'm the same way, okay? I hate lies, and my Bible tells me to love the truth. In 1 Corinthians 13:6, it says, "Love does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out." Love is happy when the truth is told. Love isn't happy when truth is concealed, when truth is hidden, when truth is put underneath a bushel for no one to see. Love is happy when the truth is told. In John 8:32, it says, "And ye shall know the truth," and what? "And the truth shall" what? I know everybody knows this. "And the truth shall make you free." The truth is literally like a brilliant light shining in the darkness, showing us a better way. When we don't have the truth about a situation, it binds us. It leaves us shackled to ignorance. And that can lead to very adverse situations. Let me give you an example. Let's just say that I have a male professor, and I'm going to his office hours, every week, and once a week, every other week, what have you, to try and get help on my homework. And I hear a couple of girls talking about how when they went to his office hours, he was being inappropriate with them. He was trying to make passes on them. He was trying to force himself on them. And I'm hearing this from multiple different people. Well, if I didn't have the truth about that situation, I would continue going to his office hours and I could be his next victim. But now that I know the truth about that, I can begin to make an informed decision, and I can say, you know what? This man is a predator. This man is a very dangerous man. So I'm going to stay away from him, and I'm going to find out another way to get help with my homework. I'm going to find out another way to get help with my assignments, because I'm not about to be his next victim. In 2 Corinthians 13:8, it says, "For we can do nothing against the truth, but only for the truth." As Christians, if you call yourself a Christian, okay, because if you are a Christian and you hate the truth and you're trying to submerge the truth and keep it hidden and keep it deep and from people finding it out, I can't call you a Christian, because my Bible says that as Christians, we shouldn't be one to attempt to cover up, conceal, or to stand against the truth. My Bible says that we can do nothing against the truth, but only for the truth. We should stand for truth. As a Christian, you should be somebody who's willing to stand for the truth. You're willing to walk away for the truth. You're willing to walk toward for the truth. You're willing to stand alone for the truth. You are willing to stand up. Where would we be without the brave women and men who stood up for the truth that no human should be enslaved? Where would we be? Where would we be without the brave men and women who stood up for the truth that blacks should be treated equal to whites? Where would we be in history if we didn't have the trailblazing men and women who were willing to stand up for what was right, who were willing to stand up for the truth while everybody else laid down and took it? Where would we be if everybody laid down and took it? Where would we be? Where would we be in history today? as Christians, as a woman of God, as a man of God, you should be somebody who is willing to stand up for the truth. You should be somebody who is willing to say, hey, this isn't right. I'm going to walk away because this isn't right. I'm going to tell you that this isn't right. And I'm not going to sit up and just make excuses for it and justify it. I'm not going to do that. I'm talking a lot about truth. So how do we know that something is true? Well, the Bible has given us a standard to help us to determine whether or not something is true. In 2 Corinthians 13:1, it says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. So if I have 2 or 3 people telling me the same thing about this church leader, about this bishop, about this pastor, about this apostle, my Bible tells me that those words are established. Those words are true. If I have 2 or 3 people telling me the same thing about a person, about an individual, about an organization, how much more should I believe it if I have more than that? If I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people telling me the same exact thing, how much more should I believe that that's the truth? My Bible also says in 1 Timothy 5:19, against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. Okay, so if I have an elder, if I have a pastor, if I have a leader, and I have 2 or 3 people telling me the same wicked, disgusting, horrifying things about this leader, my Bible tells me to receive that accusation. That's what my Bible tells me. My Bible tells me to take that as true. Exposure is good. Exposure is good. Exposure is of God. And I can say that confidently because the scriptures back me up. In Ephesians 5:11, it says, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. You should have no fellowship, no partnership, no participation, no intimate connections. You should have no fellowship with the wicked works of darkness. But what should you do? What does the Bible say? The Bible says, but rather reprove them. Rather admonish, convict, convince, tell a fault, rebuke, reprove, bring to light, expose them. Okay? My Bible does not tell me to sit back and just wait for God to do something about wicked works. My Bible doesn't tell me that. My Bible tells me that God is telling me, I want you to reprove this. I want you to rebuke this. I want you to expose this. I want you to bring this to light. Not to continue to, I'm just gonna wait, just gonna turn a blind eye. I know that's wrong, but I'm just gonna make excuses for it. I'm just gonna justify. I'm just gonna sit back and wait for God. No, my Bible tells me to rebuke that. Or do we just have soft Christians nowadays? Do we just have soft Christians who are rolling over and taking whatever, knowing that the scriptures, and they have the word before them, they know what it says, but they're still choosing not to stand up for it? Do we just have a bunch of weak, soft-minded, weak-minded Christians? God has not called us to be this way. My Bible has told me to expose the truth, okay? And in Galatians 2:11 through 14, Paul begins to tell us about the time that he rebuked Peter before everyone. Peter had at one time, he would fellowship with the Gentiles. He would fellowship with the people who were uncircumcised. But when James's friends came around Peter began to change. He began to switch up. He began to change his whole MO. He stopped hanging around the Gentiles. He stopped hanging around the uncircumcised because now he was around people who believed that circumcision was necessary, that circumcision was something that you needed for salvation. So he cut all of that out. He changed his behavior for fear of what men would think. And Paul begins to tell us that he rebuked Peter in front of everyone. Why? Because Peter changed his behavior, and the people who were being influenced by Paul, the people around Paul had also begun to change their behavior and began to follow in that same wicked example. Even Barnabas, it talks about how even Barnabas was deceived and began doing the same thing that Peter had done. So Paul had to rebuke Peter in front of everybody, because if he had pulled Peter to the side and said, hey man, I just wanted to let you know that wasn't right, well then everybody else who was following Peter's wicked example wouldn't have known that that wasn't right. When you find yourself in a church, in a place where a leader is doing something wicked and wrong before everybody, preaching it in the pulpit, telling it in secret meetings before everybody, people are going to begin to think that that is okay, that that behavior is right, that this interpretation of the scriptures is perfect. And then those people are going to be following in that same wicked example. And my Bible tells me that if you be a blind follower of the blind, even both shall fall into a ditch. So if you are following a leader who is taken on a wicked example and who is putting on a wicked example and you're following that example, babe, you're going to end up in the same place that person's going to end up in. That's why it was necessary for Paul to not bring him to the side, not bring him into a back corner and rebuke him. He had to rebuke him in front of everyone. Rebuking leaders in private when they sin in public is not biblical. That's not biblical. That's not biblical at all. People are so disillusioned and so caught up in idolatry that they refuse to acknowledge the scriptures that make this clear. So there are some churches and some organizations that will tell you that exposure is bad, that exposure is wicked, that you should conceal things and conceal transgression. And let me just say this. Let me say this. If you find yourself in a church, first of all, I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody, but I don't want to be a part of an organization. I don't want to be a part of a church where there's literally a paper trail of wickedness, where you can literally get online and read a whole bunch of wicked stuff about what's been going on, what's been happening in the past. I don't want to be a part of a church that's literally riddled in scandal, molestations here, rape here, pedophilia there. I don't want to be a part of that. I really don't. I don't know about anybody else, but I just don't want to be a part of that, because Paul told, it was the Corinthian church. Paul told the Corinthian church, let not fornication be named once among you. Okay, so therefore, I just don't want to be a part of an organization that has not only fornication named once, multiple times, but pedophilia, molestation, lies, manipulation of the scriptures, adultery, and everything else under the sun. I don't want that. I don't want that. Money laundering, don't want anything to do with that. But if you are attending a church that is getting up in the pulpit and telling you these kinds of things, that exposure is bad, that people talking about your church leaders are wrong and they shouldn't be saying this and this, that, and the third, and don't listen to them and don't believe them, well, I'm just going to say this. I think that that's a telltale sign of a church, of an organization that has something to hide. Because when Jesus was reviled before everybody and they were calling out all of his accusations and all of the things that he did, Jesus sat back and was silent. He knew he was about to go to the cross. He knew that he was about to be killed. He sat back. He didn't say a single thing when they were accusing him. Why? Because he knew he was innocent. Because he knew that God was going to vindicate him. And so when you find yourself in a situation in a church where they're constantly getting up in the pulpit and defending themselves, curating messages curating sermons and messages to make you not believe what people are saying or what's been going on or what's happening or whatever, that's not a good sign. It's just really not. So I wanted to get that out of there. I just wanted to get that little disclosure statement out. So now I want to address the scriptures that I have personally heard be used to support the idea that exposing is bad. So let's just start with, okay, number one, Jesus knew Judas was going to kill him and didn't say anything. Jesus knew Judas was a devil and knew he was going to do all these horrible things and didn't say anything about it. That is absolutely false. And I'm totally and completely convinced that people don't read their Bibles. Matthew 26:21 through 25. And as they ate, he said, verily I say unto you, one of you shall betray me. Jesus was eating with all of the disciples. Judas was there. And Jesus said, one of you is going to betray me, to all of them. Okay, and that's not all. He said, they asked him, oh Lord, who is it going to be? And he said, he that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. Jesus but all said Judas's name. I'm so sorry. Jesus but all said Judas's name. And then going on to verse 25, then Judas who betrayed him answered and said, Master, is it I? And he said, you said it. Jesus literally but all said Judas's name. He confronted it. He acknowledged. Let me go to John 13:26. Jesus answered, he it is to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And he had dipped the sop and he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. Not only did Jesus call out Judas's wicked behavior, he indeed told all of his disciples what Judas was going to do. He said, somebody's going to betray me, and it's the one who dips his hand with me in the dish. Judas asked him, is it me? And he said, yep, you said it. He told all of his disciples. He told all of them, and he confronted Judas before everybody. So I'm totally convinced that people don't read their Bibles. The disciples may not have understood what all of this meant, as evidenced in John 13, 28 through 29. They may not have fully understood, but Jesus absolutely warned them and addressed Judas before everybody. Matthew 1:19. And Joseph, her husband, being a just man and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privily. So when Joseph found out that Mary was pregnant and knowing that they hadn't had any relations, he was going to put her away, and he was going to put her away privately. Okay, and I've heard this be used, well, this is how you know that you're just, and this is how you know you're a righteous person, if you know that wicked things are going on and you keep it to yourself. First of all, context is key. Mary probably would have been killed for stepping out on her fiance and getting pregnant if Joseph had said anything. And I believe that he loved her so much and respected her that he didn't want to see that happen. Secondly, this wasn't a church situation. Mary wasn't a leader who had a whole bunch of influence about had a lot of influence on souls. This wasn't a church situation. So to use this and put it on your church leaders, well, hey guys, this is why you shouldn't expose or talk about the wicked things that you've seen Pastor so-and-so do and Minister so-and-so do, because look at Joseph. He was a just man because he wanted to put away Mary privately. You're comparing oranges and apples. This isn't the same context. This isn't the same thing. And really, the times that they were in, something like that would have led to an execution. So this wasn't a church situation. This is not applicable at all. Proverbs 25:2. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings to search out a matter. Okay, this is not talking about God hiding sin. This is not talking about hiding sin. This is talking about the deep things of God and how it's honorable for somebody to search out those deep things. It's honorable for somebody to dive deep into those deep things of God. It's the glory of God to hide something, but someone with a king mindset will try and search it out. This isn't saying that it's glorious to keep sin concealed, and it's glorious to keep wickedness behind closed doors. That's not what this is talking about. And I know you're probably listening to this and thinking, well, doesn't everybody know this? You would think so. You would think so, but I have heard ministers use this to somehow make it seem not okay when exposure is happening in the church. Okay, Proverbs 17:9. He that covereth the transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends. The last word in this tells me that this is about individuals. It's a completely different story when, let's say, my friend does something to hurt my feelings, and instead of forgiving them, instead of talking it out with them, I go running around our whole entire friend group telling everybody what they did. I will find myself in a situation where I will probably ruin our relationship and may also ruin the relationship that person has with those other people. This is in no way talking about the habitual public sins on behalf of a church leader, on behalf of a church organization. And here is more biblical context to support that. Matthew 18:15-17 says, Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained a brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he shall neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. So this verse gives us four things to do when we find ourselves dealing with a brother who has trespassed. First, tell him his fault between him and him alone. Okay. Secondly, if he doesn't hear you, take 2 or 3 witnesses with you. And thirdly, if he won't hear them, tell it to the whole church. Tell it to the whole church. So if you find yourself in a situation, and then lastly, if he doesn't hear the church, then let him be a heathen man. So if you find yourself in a church situation where all this exposure is happening and all of this revealing is taking place, you can probably guarantee that these 2 steps have already been gone through. Those have already been ran through. They've already been ran through. It's already been done with. The person wouldn't hear. And so now we have to take it to this measure and tell it to the whole entire church. And that's necessary. That's necessary because if you find yourself being led by wicked leaders, by false prophets, by people who manipulate the scriptures and only care about their greedy gain, who have turned the truth who have turned the grace of God into lasciviousness, you are going to find yourself in the same place that they are going, because blind followers of the blind shall both fall into a ditch. That's why you cannot just focus on you, just focus on you, and just focus on what you're doing. No, you need to be circumspect. You need to be wise. You need to have your head on a swivel, because whoever you're following can have an influence on where you end up for all of eternity. There is so much that I could talk about with this. I could go into so much depth and so much detail, because I once found myself in an organization just like this. Trying to hide, trying to conceal, misusing and abusing scriptures to make wicked acts not seem as bad. I found myself in a very similar, same exact situation. So there are so many things that I could talk about, and I am very committed to the cause of speaking the truth in love, in sharing the truth of the gospel and of the scriptures in its proper context, because I care about people's souls. I care about where people end up, and I care about where people are going to spend their eternity. And I care about the truth. I've always been a lover of truth, always. I've been a lover of truth since I was like 11, 12 years old, okay? I love the truth. I don't like lies. I don't like deceit, and I don't like when things are covered up. I just don't like it. I hate it, okay? So I am always going to be the kind of person who is going to stand up for the truth, who isn't just going to sit back and just be hands up and call it a day, but I'm going to be the kind of person who is going to shine a light in the darkness. So I just wanted to talk about that. If you have found yourself in a situation similar to some of the things that I've talked about, feel free to reach out to me in the comments via email. I would love to connect and to encourage and support in any way that I possibly can. But yeah, I'm going to end out this video. Moral of the story: exposure is good, and I'm here for it.